All right. Welcome, everybody, back to the Insobriety of Sports post draft commentary edition. Uh, thank God there was a draft, man. It made me feel like there was actually some sports left and there's hope and light at the end of the tunnel now.
Yeah, second that,
Uh,
man.
Yeah, definitely felt like that. I'm definitely glad it ended up happening, and the Twitter crowd that was offended by it. I'm glad nothing happened with them.
the Twitter crowd that was offended by it.
Yeah, remember what people were saying? Oh, is it insensitive to do a draft right now because of people dying because of the pandemic? But I think it
It
proved.
would have been insensitive not to do the draft with as many
Yeah,
people
it
as
proved that everybody needed it. We needed a sense of normalcy.
as suspected. Top rated draft ever by, what was it, 30% national television rankings?
Yeah, crushed it.
NFL is
Yeah.
king.
Yeah, Goose, we actually called that live on the air. We missed you for that one, but we did get your commentary on the Raiders, so thank you for joining quickly in your inebriated state.
How come?
Yeah.
I got a quick question for you guys. How come the Tiger King himself, Mr. Joe Exotic, how come he was the only guy? Everyone knew he was going to be first round pick, but he seemed to be the only person abiding by the social distancing rules in the entire draft. Everyone else had their entourage running like 7 deep up in bathrobes in the living room, and he was just by himself with his mom and dad. You telling me he doesn't have an entourage? Joe
Yeah,
Burrow doesn't have an entourage?
yeah. Don't assume that every state stay-at-home order is the same. Everybody might have their own little different nuances and rules wherever you go.
I think for him, it's almost like, okay, knew that was going to happen. Check that one off the list. Now it's time to get going.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're from the Ohio, it's probably different rules.
Need that for sure. So let's jump into it, Goose. After the alcohol level started to fall in your blood, what did you think about the draft?
It actually never fell until Saturday. That's when it. That's when
Just
it
keep
started.
it going.
Yeah. So the first thing they started to refer to the Raiders as Las Vegas Raiders, so that kind of like irked me. But I think I'm starting to get away from the denial phase, and I'm going to the acceptance phase. So I think that's a good solid step for me to keep the Raiders in my life.
When they have to come back to Oakland this year because the stadium's not finished, is that going to like set you back on the grieving scale?
Yeah, it probably will. It probably will.
Okay.
It'll make me think about like us having a future together and getting married and living happily ever after in Oakland. But
Man, we're going to have to do this all over again, guys.
It's gonna be a multi-year process.
It already has been,
Yeah.
hasn't it?
you guys are like my therapy. It's like, remember those walls I built? Well, baby, they're tumbling down. But you know what? The Raiders actually, I think they had a nice little draft. I wasn't upset. The initial feeling is not like, oh, the Raiders blew it. I, you know, going into this, I didn't think Ruggs was their guy, but I could see how he could be their guy. He's a burner, and the first thing you think of is, oh, a typical Raiders pick the fastest wide receiver, but then you start like, okay, now that it's a pick, let me look into this guy, and like everyone's got the highlights, and dude actually catches the ball too. He's not just like like a James Jett that the Raiders used to have, or just a track guy, playing football. And he makes big plays, and that was something that the Raiders definitely need. I mean, 17.5 yards per catch at his time in Alabama. He caught 87% of the catchable balls, a TD every 4.1 receptions. Like, this guy is like,
He's never going to have it better than he did, huh?
the one thing I
feel
heard
like you're grieving for him now.
The one thing I heard he does really well too is the slant, and that's one of Derek Carr's best balls because it's only like what you hit
3
him
yards.
like 5
That's
to 10
right,
yards
Billy.
away. So
you
you
guys
it's
thought
a
I wasn't
pass.
on this pod, did you?
you hit him with one of those and let him do the work. There's been like some comps about Tyreek Hill. I don't know if they're exactly the same. Tyreek looks a
That's
little.
the comp I heard the most.
Yeah,
Yes.
Tyreek's probably a little more
Well,
stout looking.
hopefully it's comps only on between the lines.
Yeah.
So so Goose, did you get a chance to catch our filmed edition, our teams edition? Have you seen any of that yet?
I have not.
Wait till you see Joe's reaction when Ruggs gets picked, because I think all three of us thought it was CD Lamb the whole time with the Raiders. And Joe literally lets out the biggest "Al Davis lives."
Yeah, everybody's saying that. He's smiling from the afterlife on this pick. And yeah, it seems solid. I can understand the logic in it. So that's always good with the Raiders pick. To like, is there logic behind it? There's logic behind this, and I'm okay with that.
So really, what we're curious about is there was a spirited debate about the second pick between Joey and myself. How do you feel about it now?
So initially, well, in the first round, I want to at least know the names, and this one I didn't know the name. I'm like, oh, who is this guy? You know, he wasn't really linked to them in the first round, and a lot of people were saying it was a little bit of a reach. Um, but if that's your guy, that's your guy. I guess you just take him, and time will tell if it's a good pick or not. But because they didn't have a pick in the second round, so he might not have stuck around till their picks in the third. So, and if you don't have a trading partner to trade down, you got to go with your guy.
So you've been poisoned apparently by Joe's logic. So
no,
Joe, let's hear about their number 2 pick, Joe, from the expert himself. What do you see in him?
I mean, he has all the tangibles to be a first round guy. Like, he's a stud. On the field, there were some off the field like maturity issues, not necessarily like getting in trouble or whatnot, but more just how serious is he taking it and what's his maturation process and things like that. But from an actual defensive back, I mean, he's really, really good, and that's what I was trying to convey to Goose first and foremost when we were talking about this. Off the record, it was a situation where you had Akuda on the other side. He played. A lot of people were knocking him for not having that many picks. It's like if you go back and actually just watch, he had like a wrist injury. He had a cast on his wrist the entire season. So it's like, well, there's a pretty good reason why he didn't have a lot of picks. But they would, because you had Akuda on the other side, pretty much locking up whoever he was guarding, they would test that side more than Akuda's side for obvious reasons. And you look at his numbers as far as what he allowed, when attempts, like completion rate, and then yards per attempt to his side. I mean, the dude is every bit of a first round talent. There are a number of mocks that had him going late first. There was also a lot of mocks that had him going second or third, but that was more along the lines of, like I said, maturity concerns as opposed to
talent.
So it's like, if you think that he is going to, be a pro's pro, and you don't have a pick until the third round, and there's no, reasonable trade partner to trade that first round pick to, a mid second and a fourth or whatever everybody has the same conversion chart as to what the picks are actually worth. If that person isn't there to actually trade back, I 100% understand why you do the quote unquote reach.
Let's remember too that the Raiders gave their second round pick to the Bears in that Khalil Mack trade, which they shouldn't have. That's a boneheaded move on their part already.
But yeah, I mean, I think he has every chance of being a stud corner for them for the next however many years he ends up being on the team. 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, whatever it ends up being. He very well could be definitely a Pro Bowl level guy, and like he has potential All Pro talent.
Goose, you were with Raider fans, I'm assuming, while this was going on, right?
Yeah.
What was the reaction from them?
The reaction was who? But then we start getting all the the Twitter feeds coming in, like showing his like stats, and some of them were pretty good. And I shared some with you. Lowest passer rating allowed in single coverage in the draft class. Hasn't given up more than 1 TD in any of the 4 seasons there. He played with the broken wrist. I mean, these are like, these are good things. So it took me off the ledge a little bit, and and now I'm. It seems like an alright pick.
Okay.
I wouldn't say
Because
it's like slam dunk, but it doesn't seem
All right.
terrible. So it's probably somewhere in the middle, B
To be
minus.
It's not
fair,
trash.
Goose. I mean, yeah, I agree somewhere in the middle. But some of those stats you're calling out. If you put enough qualifiers and filters in anything, you can make anybody number one in everything. So,
That's right.
I mean, first downs on the third Sunday of March that allowed to the left-handed quarterback number one. To me, I don't care about that.
There's no qualifiers on these. His man-to-man coverage, he has the lowest passer rating.
I'm
Yeah,
just saying some of the other ones
And
you were
man-to-man
saying.
is a good sign of a cornerback.
right, and he
Yeah.
also had success playing zone with him. I mean, if you watch the people, or if you listen to what the people say who actually break down film and then rate film, they had him very highly rated. They didn't have him over Akuda or Henderson, but he was consistently coming in as somewhere between like the third and sixth DB coming off the board. That's certainly well within mid-second range round for that position. So the dude, it's not like you have to piecemeal together a bunch of advanced metrics or whatnot. Like the dude's good. And if you watch college football, like I understand a lot of people who are NFL fans don't watch college football that closely or whatnot. But if you are a college football fan, given that Ohio State is Ohio State and is in the national championship running or whatever, his name is a familiar name, and he's an all Big Ten guy, multiple years. I mean, he has the pedigree.
Beautifully said.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Goose said earlier. They gave away their second round pick. They would have probably got someone else in this pick, and then probably took him in that second round pick. But they didn't have it. This was their guy. So someone once said, I forget who said it, but I heard it a million times in the draft that if your guy's there, you got to take your guy. I don't know who was saying that, but I feel like I've heard that a million times over these last 4 days. So
yeah. So okay. So top two, you feel solid about. What about the rest of the draft? I think where I start going squirrely on the Raiders draft is where I start seeing two receivers back to back.
Well, he's not a whoa.
Like, okay, now what's going on?
Whoa. And not two receivers. That's a Swiss Army knife and a receiver. He's technically considered a running back, and I think that's what Mack said. He would be running back, but he's I don't know. I think when you have like an offensive coach, you probably want guys like this that can just kind of do a little bit of everything. That you can make the defenses, a little bit hesitant on one thing because this guy can do so much other things. Maybe like a Taysom Hill type, throw him in for some wildcat or, have him in the backfield, have him, as a wide receiver. As an offensive coach, you probably love a guy like this because you can just do so much with them. So it's on Gruden to make this guy be something good. And we're paying him to make guys look good, so he better do it. I'm not
right.
The pick is like what do they say, the jack of all trades with the master of none. But I think if Gruden is as good as he should be and he's paid for, then this could be an exciting player. But that's
quite possible. That's a high bar to compare him to. I mean, there's not very many Taysom Hills out there.
Yeah.
I think everybody's. It's always the all right copycat league.
Exactly.
Who's going to find the next Taysom Hill, and how are you going to groom him to be that? But I don't think that's that easy. I think Taysom Hill comes from you have a great pocket passer in Drew Brees. You've got a great talent on the outside. You've got a great running back, and you have to scheme for all those. And then all of a sudden this guy comes in and he can do a little bit of everything, and you still have all those weapons on the field. And so you gotta prepare for anything at that point. That's what makes it tough on the defense. Yeah. I think Carr's going to have to throw more than a 3-yard pass if they want to create that scare with an offensive weapon.
That's all we got Bowden to do for. He could throw it farther than Carr if we need.
There you go. There you go. All right. Well, so let's switch over. Niners side, Joe, what do you feel about their draft?
I love everything that they did. So when they were coming up on that pick, at 13, and we had talked in the pre-draft stuff, the obvious positions in need for him were wide receiver, replenishing the line from losing Buckner, and then also with an eye that at most Staley had a year left, which we subsequently learned he did not. So offensive line was also a concern. So when they were sitting there at 13 and with so much offensive line talent there, I think Wirfs was still available. I think that's who Tampa Bay took. I was wondering if there was some moves behind the scenes or something that they were hoping for or contemplating, that they thought they could get offensive line help, in other directions. So trading back, acquiring that fourth, and then getting Kinlaw, who is a monster. I'm so high on this guy. I think he's going to be a great player. Seems like a great dude. Like really, high motor, all those intangibles. But then he obviously also has all the tangibles. So I love that pick. And and when it comes to the Arizona State wide receiver, what's the right way to pronounce his name? I don't even know.
Ayuk.
Yeah.
Ayuk.
Shanahan, apparently loves this dude.
Yeah.
And who the hell am I to question him at this point? You certainly, when you watch the highlights,
you're a podcast commentator, you have all rights to question.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you watch the highlights and everything else, you're like, okay, the dude gets separation. He's got good hands. He's got that crazy reach that everybody's talking about with an 82-inch wingspan, despite being like 6 foot even, which is crazy. So yeah, man. I mean, I'm all about it. And then of course getting Trent Williams a couple days later. I think they've done a great job of maintaining the core and then building on it and doing everything they can to put another championship caliber roster out there next year.
Hey, can I interject and give a quick shout out here? We held our Mack draft 3 weeks ago almost now, and there was a receiver that was thrown out at the end of the draft, and was thrown out with the guy from Arizona State. I don't know how to pronounce his name, and we all laughed. And Billy, now we're all on the bandwagon going, man, this guy can freaking play.
Yep, called it. my boy Herm Edwards. Herm Edwards was all about him, and that guy has an eye for evaluating talent. So Herm likes him. I like him.
You played
well. I definitely agree with the pick. I like the pick, but the amount of draft capital that came with trading up for this pick was a little bit hard to swallow.
Yeah, but much like we had just determined with Gruden and Mayock, if your guy's on the board, you got to take him. This was Shanahan's guy, so you got to take him.
I feel like Shanahan and Lynch have done such a great job in their last, 4 drafts now, of managing their guy with trading and getting draft assets. And this felt like the opposite to me. Like I was so excited. Joe, totally agree with you when Kinlaw was drafted, especially because they get the extra pick by just trading down one spot. I'm like, that is a Lynch maneuver at this point. Apparently he knows how to trade down one spot and acquire assets when he needs to get his guy and have somebody fear that they're not going to get their guy. But this one was that's a lot of draft capital to swallow. I mean, I really hope Ayuk pays off. I think he could, but if he doesn't, or if he becomes just a middle of the road guy, that was a couple of valuable picks that they threw out.
Yeah. Well, so what did they end up giving up there? They gave up a fourth and
a fifth that they had acquired from. No, they gave up the fifth, which was theirs, and the fourth that they acquired through trading down with Tampa Bay.
Yeah. So here's this is a personal bias type of thing, but I really anything beyond the third, I'm kind of skeptical of anyway. I know you can get quality dudes in the fourth, but when you start getting the fourth, particularly the fifth, sixth, and seventh, I'm like, what are these picks? What are these picks really worth anyway?
I got something for you.
Let me counter that.
That
though.
Did you guys didn't see the graphic they had? NFL players during 2019 season by draft round. NFL players. 14% were first round, 21% were second and third, and 65% were after the third round.
Yeah, and I actually agree with Goose here, Joe. I feel like good GMs find starters in the 4th and 5th round, like the George Kittles, the Fred Warners, those guys. If you have an eye for talent, I think what makes or breaks good GMs is finding 4th and 5th round talent that ends up being starting caliber.
Yeah, well, Warner was the third. Now that stat was it 65% was third and after, or after the third?
After third, but that includes undrafted players and supplemental draft players.
Right. Yeah, because the third round can some years is like 50 picks. So
with the supplemental.
right.
Yeah.
So the third round, I think there's a lot of value in third round. I'm fourth round too, and I'm not saying you can't find diamonds in the rough after that. But did the stat separate from third round and fourth round, fifth round, sixth round? Did it have like a fourth through sixth round or fourth through seventh round, or did
No, but I'd love to see that. Yeah.
I would like to too. I'm willing to be persuaded on this. If it lumps the third round in there with fourth, fifth, and sixth, I'm a little skeptical of that number because that's a really huge
third round is completely separate from what he's saying. It's
second
fourth,
and third
fifth,
together.
sixth, seventh.
Oh, second and third were together. Oh, okay.
I just sent it to you guys.
Yeah. So it's basically fourth round and on is where you get, and in general that makes sense because think about how many picks and how many people are taking those rounds plus all the undrafted free agents.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, that makes sense. But what I am saying is I believe that the fourth and fifth round do come up with caliber talent. And
especially
if you're a
this
good
year.
Yeah. A draft like this is the perfect example, right?
Yeah.
Like if you nail the fourth and fifth round this year, this draft was deep.
Right.
I mean, that's how Belichick did it for all those years.
That's
with those
exactly
Patriots
right.
teams.
That's exactly right. The Belichick didn't always hit the home run in the first round, or the second round for that matter, but his depth of draft was a lot better than most GMs.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I will say this: the Niners, they've restocked or they've maintained in a lot of places. I guess if they end up by giving up a fourth, I guess if that ends up being a quality guy down the road, then you feel the pain 2 years from now. But I don't know, man. I'm in win now mode. So if
and I think ultimately, them replacing Staley with Trent Williams, who is a freaking baller.
Huge.
I think that's the takeaway of this draft. Forget all the people they drafted. Who cares about that? They use this draft to fill Staley's spot, and that to me is a win, regardless of any of the others. And Kinlaw is going to be good. I think Ayuk's going to be a serviceable NFL player, if not great. But regardless of that, we filled that spot with Staley, which I think was our number one. Once he was going, that was like our number one thing we had to deal with.
No, and if you told me at the beginning of the draft, if you could trade your third and fourth round pick, which basically they didn't have a third or fourth round pick for Williams, would you do that? I would have said absolutely. If Staley's not going to be here, I'd do it.
Yeah.
But I do think that 2 or 3 years from now, this is where this type of draft could rear its ugly head if we don't have the depth and we're hitting salary cap issues, right? Now, on the flip side of that, I think Lynch and Shanahan have done a really good job managing the cap by making deals like they did with Buckner and then pulling in Kinlaw. So if you do more of that, then you don't have to have the depth because you're getting quality frontline guys and you're trading high-level talent for low-dollar talent that's still high level. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But I think that 2 or 3 years from now, we could look at this draft and go, man, if we would have had a couple other guys, would that have made a difference if the cap goes crazy?
Yeah. No, you could be right. We got some breaking NFL news right now. You want me to drop it?
Please.
All right. K-Cav and Jay Cutler are getting a divorce.
No way.
No way.
Yeah,
I never saw that coming. They're so good on their show together.
They
That's
are. I love that show.
Yeah.
The fact that you guys are saying that just makes me
don't tell my wife. She's already jealous that I love Kristen Cavallari.
It was actually my wife that texted me that news.
Man,
I confirmed it on Twitter, and it just dropped 10 minutes ago. So
thank you, Amber, our entertainment correspondent.
Yeah. So Goose, Kristen Cavallari does it for you.
Well, all right. So her
I'm with you, Goose.
When I was a youngster.
Oh, I am too, but I'm like, I don't understand. This is not Goose's.
When I was a youngster, I used to love Laguna Beach, and she was my favorite on the show, and it's just been a thing ever since.
Okay. All right.
Cutler, I forget, one of the quarterbacks they were comparing to Cutler, one of the first round quarterbacks. I was like, ugh.
Oh, yeah. I heard that.
Who was that? I'm trying to think who that was. I can't remember.
Was it Love?
I think it might have been Love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so look, can we talk about some WTF moments from the draft real quick?
Yeah, go for it. Shoot them out.
So I understand Aaron Rodgers isn't getting older. Isn't getting younger. But they need, they got curb stomped by the Niners 2 games, and it wasn't because of quarterback or running back, and that's where they go round 1, round 2 in the draft. And if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm like, what the hell, man? Like, what are y'all doing?
Oh, Joe, you know me. It's against my religion to agree with you, but I completely agree with you here.
Well, I think this has all the makings, and I could see it in the stars. Rodgers should try to force his way out of there. I feel like that why his career is dwindling down. He still has a few good throws left in him. He's getting old. Like he wants to win. Probably he doesn't want to be on this joke of a team that's just like you guys said. He's always on his ass. Their defense is average at best, and they're always getting drafted in freaking running backs every year. Who needs a running back nowadays?
Right. Well, and here's another thing. T. Higgins, 6'4" on the board there, could go that direction.
Yeah.
Michael Pittman from USC could go that direction. I mean, I don't get the draft pick at all. I mean, it makes no sense to me whatsoever. Unless you're just sitting there going, I don't know if we want Rodgers as our cornerstone, and so we're going to look to move on quick.
And I thought the Eagles were crazy taking Jalen Hurts in the second round. It's like they were wheeling out anybody. I think I was seventh in line at one point to go be a wide receiver for the Eagles last year. And
Nice.
he just signed Carson Wentz to a 5-year, $140 million extension. He hasn't even taken one snap under that deal, and now you got a second-round quarterback behind him. I don't get that at all.
Well,
I understand that one a heck of a lot more than I do the Jordan Love one.
The problem is with the football nowadays with these quarterbacks is if they're like they draft them, they either get thrown right in there and then they don't amount to nothing, or they let them sit for a year and then throw them in there, and they only have a year or two before they get rid of them. Like no one has a chance to develop anymore to even see what they got. I mean, when was the last time? I mean, look at Mahomes. He got to be slowly developed. And he's really good, and now look at him. And Rodgers the same way. He just sat and watched, but it doesn't happen anymore. These guys get thrown right in when they really have no business being in there.
I forgot. 3 picks after Jordan Love, Tennessee took Isaiah Wilson out of Georgia. Monster right tackle. Would have loved to see him on that Packer team.
Yeah, I'm sure Rodgers would have too.
Yeah.
Did you guys see when your 5th round pick, Colton McKivitz, his dad makes raccoon hats, like real life raccoon hats?
I didn't see
Nice. Nice. Just in case the commies come to take over.
Yeah, better than the Pats kicker that they took, who has like that right wing militia Aryan Nathan tattoo on his arm. So
oh no.
I don't know. He was like, when I got the tattoo, I didn't really know what it meant. I was like, well, you might want to get that thing removed then. You're projecting something that you might not want to be.
Any other head scratchers from the first round? Anything you sat there and said, man, I don't know what they're thinking, what they're doing?
You know what? I got something for you guys. So the Khalil Mack trade is essentially over. It would be Jacobs and Arnett from this draft for Khalil Mack. Question is, would y'all do that?
No.
Sorry.
I am also a no.
Yeah.
Just the level, Jacobs is great and Arnett could be great, but Khalil Mack is just one of those once in every 10-year type.
He's a first ballot Hall of Fame guy
on
a high impact position. It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and hopefully one of those guys turns out to be that way, Goose. I don't mean to rain on your parade.
No, I was hoping y'all would give me the hard truth, and it was.
You know who's gonna turn into that Khalil Mack type player? Kinlaw. So, there we go.
Ouch. Man.
Perfect.
Way to kick a guy when he's down.
They're not even the same.
Yeah, no, they're not.
I know. Yeah. They're not close at all.
I feel like that was a personal attack.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw a surprise at you guys here. I didn't tell you about this ahead of time, and I was hoping to get some raw reactions. We'll go in order if it's okay with you, but I have 5 questions for you that I want you to answer, and you'll each get a shot to answer it. All right. So, Joe, I'm going to put you on the spot first. Legal mind, you're used to working quickly. So Joe Burrows will mean what to the Cincinnati Bengals when we look back in 5 years?
As far as is he gonna be a franchise QB or cut, or are we looking at
totally open-ended question.
I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be solid for him. I think he's going to be way better than what they've had with Dalton. So I don't know. I don't know what his ceiling is, to be honest. But I think he's going to be very much the entrenched starter, and definitely a top 12, 14 QB in the league with
Okay, Billy?
with potential of top tier.
Okay. All right, Billy?
I say that the Tiger King lives on. I definitely think he's not going to be a letdown. I don't know. I like Joey. I don't know what his ceiling is, but
Right.
He's a talented quarterback, and he's got the size, every aspect attribute that you would have in that you see on Madden, whatever, when you're designing players and stuff. He's good in all of them to be a classic picture of what a quarterback is. So he just has to come through, and I think, like I said, Tiger King's going to live on.
All right, Goose.
We're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals here. Something always goes wrong, so it's going to be what could have been, is what the thinking is.
You realize everybody says that about the Raiders too, right?
Yeah, maybe some picks.
All right. When we look back in this draft at 5 years, what are we going to say about Chase Young going to the Redskins, Billy?
I think that it's going to be a big move in the Redskins franchise going forward. Now that they have Rivera coaching, I think their defense is going to get tightened up, which they've never been horrible. But hopefully Rivera can work some magic with that defense, and we might see a little resurgence in Washington.
Goose?
We're going to talk about, how could the Redskins trade the next Khalil Mack back to the Raiders, and the Raiders end up getting them and swindle somebody else for a change.
I love the way your mind thinks, man. Joey?
I'm a big believer that you can't escape a bad owner. And so I think he's going to be a monster. And at that point in time, his NFL or his rookie contract will be coming up. And I think the discussion will be who's ponying up whatever the price tag is, $100 million for Chase Young this offseason.
How many draft picks are the Raiders willing to give for Chase Young?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. All right. So next one, we're going to start with Goose.
Oh, no.
Henry Ruggs makes the Raider offense fill in the blank.
Purr, baby, purr. He's going to make that offense hum. He's going to take the top off, and all the DBs in the AFC West, may God look after you and have mercy on you.
Wow, that got really deep really quick. All right, Joe.
Yeah, so as much fun as I had with the Raiders taking the speed guy, he's more than a speed guy. So,
yes.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a very, very good player for them. And they'll probably do something stupid like trade him to, I don't know.
Chicago.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, there'll be something. But before then, he'll be a very good player for them.
All right, Billy?
I think it's static. Doesn't do anything for them. I feel like he'll fit into their offense that they run, but as long as they have no downfield stretching because their quarterbacks can't throw more than 2 to 3 yards at a time. I mean, their best offense is Jacobs. I think he'll be a nice addition, but it's not like he's going to really change. Their offense wasn't a problem last year, really. I don't think so. I don't think it's going to do much.
Scoring was a problem.
Would have been nice to see Kinlaw in a Raiders jersey, but whole nother subject. All right, next one, Joey. Javon Kinlaw, 5 years from now, we're going to look back as Niner fans or Raider fans and say,
we're going to be so happy that we have Kinlaw and Bosa still anchoring the defensive line, and no matter what's going on behind them, we'll keep that defense competitive moving forward.
Okay. Billy?
Yeah, I agree. I think we're building quite the 1-2 punch that's going to be together for a long time, and yeah, as long as we got that pass rush, we can put anyone back there. They're going to have no time to get the ball out. So it's going to be a nice next few years with this Niners defense.
Goose?
We're going to think that's how you do it. You build your team in the trenches along the lines.
That's the way you play the game.
Yep.
You play it to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in that spirit, hat tip to my local Carolina Panthers, getting Derek Brown and then basically Chase Young Light out of Penn State. That they're taking a page right out of the Niners book and trying to rebuild that defense from right from the lines and then back.
All right. So last one, 5 years from now, we look at Raiders drafting Damon Arnett with the 19, making some moves to do that, or looking maybe like they reached a little bit. And the Niners drafting Brandon Ayuk at 25, trading a lot of capital. Which one's going to look like the better one, better pick?
Ayuk, the Niners pick. I'm a homer, purely a homer. But if Shanahan likes his guy at this point in their careers, I'm taking Shanahan's guy over Gruden's guy. So
Goose.
This one's tough. It's going to be interesting to see these rookies in Las Vegas and these new players, these youngsters in Las Vegas, and see how they react to it. And also, just the Raiders haven't had a ton of success with cornerbacks in the first round lately. I mean, we had Garyon Conley from the Ohio State as well, and we ended up trading him last year. So I will also go with Ayuk.
Oh, Berman's already writing that down.
Yeah. Joe is morally conflicted on this. I mean, Ohio State versus the Niners. We're going to see where he lies on this.
I know it's tough.
What is it, Joe?
So it's really my anti-Raiders bias ends up winning the day because even like a good defensive back on a team that's going to win 7 wins is going to get no pub, no fanfare, no recognition whatsoever. So with the Niners poised to be good in the foreseeable future, you got to think an impact wide receiver on a championship contending team is always going to be viewed more fondly, even if Arnett is a first team All Pro. It's not going to matter if the Raiders aren't winning, and I don't think they're going to be winning. So Ayuk all the way.
Okay. Good thoughts on the draft. Can't wait to see how this is going to play out for the season. It sounds like some of the training camps are going to be postponed or altered, but hopefully we'll still have football come September, and we can actually watch some sports. But speaking of watching sports, sounds like the NBA getting ready to maybe think about starting back up.
Yeah. It looks like come May 1st, when all these stay-at-home is lifted or altered, they're saying that the states with the as long as you're within the guidelines, you can open up practice facilities and with a limited number of staff start practicing. So before we said it's going to be about 20 to 25 days of practice before they can get games rolling. So I don't know if we can count this as day one, and hopefully that means that by June we're going to have basketball. Until we get mass testing, I'm skeptical, but it definitely is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm thinking the June 1st date that we talked about seems generally realistic. I mean, maybe plus or minus some days, but obviously testing is going to be a part of it. I can see the NBA coming back by June 1st.
You know what I heard?
Can you guys see the same thing?
You know what I heard too? Instead of in the big Gatorade buckets that they got, they're going to put Lysol in there, so everyone's going to be good.
Is that recommended by Trump?
Start playing right Lysol now, then.
Yeah, that's all you need.
Start playing right now.
All right. Well, hopefully we get some more NBA talk.
I wonder if that means Clay's gonna suit up now, because Clay's been shooting normally anyways, right? I mean,
his dad said he's fully healed.
Yeah.
I think he'd be cleared to play, especially given that it's probably not going to be playoff basketball the moment he steps on the court. And I think that the Warriors, even in their history, with a guy coming back in the playoffs, they don't push him to the limit right away.
And especially now, this season doesn't matter anymore. They would
right.
It'd be nice to just see him run a little bit with Wiggins and just see how it looks. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it.
Yep. So based on our draft theme this week, we came up with our top 5 draft picks. And we're going to do this in draft style too, right, guys? Keep with the draft theme. Goose, you're number 1, not only in our hearts, but on our draft board.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Thanks.
This pick comes from a pretty good draft. 1998, the 4th pick in the draft.
You already broke the rules, Goose. Goose. What do I got to do? Do I have Joey take the rules, put it into a legal document, and then send it to you and have you sign it?
I just said it was a great draft. I'm picking one guy though.
Yeah, but it was supposed to be in the last 10 years, and I don't think 98 was in the
last
last 10 years.
Sorry, I didn't pay attention to that. So my pick is Charles Woodson. He's the greatest Raider in my lifetime.
All
Well,
right.
this is
I'll
all
allow it.
this is
I'll
all
allow
going to
it.
be bad. It's not going to be 10 years. I'm
funny.
sorry.
So funny. All right, let's just keep
Wow.
rolling. Let's just keep rolling.
Yes, keep it rolling.
All right, Joey, go ahead.
I'm going with George Blanda. No, no, I'm going with Kittle. Not only is he one of my favorite human beings on the planet, but in the 5th round is just absurd. So Kittle is
Right.
my number 1.
Did you see his tribute to Joe Staley
I
yesterday?
did. It was fantastic.
Poor guy. Man. All right, Billy.
Well, this must be a recency bias, I guess, but I'm kind of doing something Joey just did. I'm going with Bosa. I mean, he's a can't miss first round pick, and this guy's a baller, and he's going to be a baller for the rest of his career. So, bang bang Niner gang.
Nice. So both of those guys on my list just in case, and those were my favorite 2 Niner picks, but now they're gone. So I'm going to go with my Niner one that's on my board. So this is the Solomon Thomas pick, but not for Solomon Thomas, but because it finally laid out a strategy by a GM of the Niners that showed that the owner was going to get out of the freaking way and the GM was actually going to do things. And he traded down one spot and got a whole bunch of capital for it, which ended up leading to Adrian Colbert, Fred Warner, and was part of the Jimmy G trade. So one move, Solomon Thomas, the questionable pick, but the other 3 picks ended up paying off in some way for the Niners.
The spirit of Solomon Thomas.
The spirit of, hopefully it'll actually become a player, but
Yeah.
we'll see about that. All right. Goose, you're back up and hopefully in this decade.
No, I'm not yet. But
Hey, Goose, I'm sorry. We're going to change the rules. So for our listeners, the 10-year thing only applied to 3 of us, but we did something different because we know Goose doesn't like the last 10 years of football. So
no, you're gonna get a kick out of this one because I again didn't know. I'm skirting the rules even again. So this next pick is from 2001. It's the 5th pick in the NBA draft. It's Jason Richardson because
my God,
he was the anchor of the We Believe, the one of the ones we drafted, and that's my pick right there.
Why do we even come up with rules? Is your next pick going to be a Snickers bar?
Wait. There's also a side note on this. I want to put one of my worst draft picks is Mike Dunleavy from 2002, though, because I just hated him with the Warriors.
Yeah.
All right, so we're back to the Goose's top 5 whatever segment.
Goose's next pick is going to be like taking Shaun Alexander 5th overall in his fantasy draft in 2005.
Oh shit!
All right,
great.
Joey, come back to actual parameters.
Okay.
What do you have?
All right, so staying within the confines of what we discussed, I'm going with CMC. Since I'm living in Charlotte and absolutely subjected to more Panthers football than I ever want to watch, that dude is so much fun to watch every Sunday, and he makes even the bad weeks tolerable.
Nice.
So I love that dude. So I'm going with McCaffrey.
Do you remember when they picked him and everybody was all nervous about that pick? Oh, he won't be able to last in the NFL. He's too small. He's not fast enough. All these things. And, wow. All right, Billy.
I am going with Gronk. Gronk is a hilarious guy. When he was in his prime, he was unstoppable, and I'm interested to see what he'll look like 20 pounds lighter. I personally think it might be a bit of a disaster for the Bucs, but I don't think he's going to be anywhere near the same talent, but I'm excited he's back, and I just like his antics, and I can't imagine football over his last 10 years without the 24/7 champion, Gronk. Still has his belt, by the way. He's going to have his belt. I heard rumors he might lose his belt on the first game of the season.
Is he on a 1-year contract?
With WWE?
No. Is he on a 1 year with Tampa Bay?
Oh, yeah. I think he signed like a 3-year with WWE, so...
Yeah, so in theory, he could play football, then he could go wrestle because he's off contract, then sign a contract, play football, then stop the contract, go wrestle. He'd be fine.
Well, there you go. It looks like he's going to keep his 24/7 championship.
All right. My pick is gotta love a desperate team in a desperate situation trying to make something happen that just blows up in their face. Nothing better example of that than Johnny Manziel, the 22nd pick by the 2014 Browns.
Nice.
Did anybody else just hear bust when that pick came out in desperation.
Yes.
I wanted
And,
Johnny Manziel to be good.
I mean, I wanted him to be
You
good too, but I just didn't believe it in my heart.
But the only reason you guys wanted him to be good is so that he'd stick around and you could actually watch his antics, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So everybody knew what was going to happen with this pick, except for the Browns. So gotta love when a team thinks that they're going to change somebody that nobody else thinks they're going to change, and they draft him in the first round. Love it. All right, back to Goose's wild ride. Where are we at, Goose?
Let's see. Well, all right.
That obviously
I'm
means
gonna go
it doesn't fit
the
again.
2008 draft.
The entire
NFL draft. Round 1, 4th pick, Darren Mcfadden. I loved the pick when it happened. Like, this is just me. When it happened, like, oh shit, that's exactly what we need. And he always, training camp, he was always like, all the beat writers, like, this guy is fantastic. But he could just never stay healthy. But the thought of Darren Mcfadden was awesome. And brief stints when he was healthy. And it couldn't work out for him.
All right. Another one that
Outside
wasn't in the
the-
parameters.
It's getting
Yeah,
closer.
thank you.
Right? It's getting closer.
Way to inch back towards the line. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Joey, you're up.
All right, so I'm my next pick's in the same spirit of your last pick, JR. I love bad organizations doing dumb things. So this one is Kirk Cousins in the 2012 draft with their 4th round pick. So if you recall, they traded everything under the sun to get RG3, and in the same draft they already undermined him by taking another rookie. And it just set the seeds, it planted the seeds for all the dissension that occurred over the next 3, 4, 5 years. And I just have no respect for the Redskins organization. I think that whole situation was funny the first day it happened, and the next 5 years were even better.
Nice. Love it. Billy.
I'm going to go with, may not be popular for some of the people here, but I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
I just think
Great pick.
what he's brought to the game, especially since he's been full-time starter, just the excitement and it's like for all the listeners out there who we're all Bay Area fans, it's like how many times do you hear someone say, "Oh, Curry's going off tonight," and you automatically got to follow it. The same thing with Mahomes. He's like the Curry of NFL.
Yeah, he was my next pick. Really.
Nice. Now, was he a 3rd rounder?
No, Mahomes was
number 10th, I think, overall.
10th,
Oh, that's right. He was the 3rd quarterback picked.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. My fault.
That was the Mitch Trubisky. That was the Solomon Thomas draft, and then
that's right.
And then Watson went, and then Mahomes.
That's right. Yep, he was the 3rd pick. All right. I am going to take a sentimental one here, and I hate the fact that it's the Osprey that made the pick, but you got to love the Shaquem Griffin draft pick in the 5th round of 2018. I mean, everybody's rooting for the guy to get drafted. Had a stellar college career. He knew it was going to be hard for him to play in the NFL, and he's made a decent niche for himself, and he's worked hard. But to watch a guy like that make the pros and see what he's done is something that even the biggest guy can get a little teary-eyed and mushy about. So I will tip my hat one time to the Osprey, and that's for that pick. So
good pick.
All right. Can we just skip Goose? Can we go right now?
I think you guys
Goose,
want to know what I would say, though. I think you're going to like this one.
I want to know. Yeah, I want to know.
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right, so let's go back to the 2005 NFL draft. 3rd round, 78th pick, a Mr. Kirk Morrison, linebacker out of San Diego State, and an Oakland native. San Diego State, and an Oakland native. He became like immediately my favorite player, and actually I saw him once at when the NBA All-Star game was in Vegas. We went to a party at the Rio, and he was there, and I went up to him and said, "What's up?" So that was cool. But yeah, that's one of my favorite picks.
So Goose, when we started this whole thing, I did say 10 years, and it's funny because I had the Kirk Morrison pick in the back of my mind, like that's one of the picks, and then I realized it wasn't within 10 years.
Yeah, but, I think there was just so many messages. Maybe I missed the 10-year thing.
All right. Good pick, though. I love it
Yeah, I knew
for
you'd
so
like
many
that.
reasons.
I know you'd like that one.
Joey.
My next one is Julio Jones.
Damn, I had him on my list.
Yeah, so I always love it. It's always whenever somebody moves up that high, it feels and gives up that much draft capital to get their guy. It feels like it doesn't work out more often than it does, but you got to give a lot of respect for them doing what they did to go get a guy who's been an anchor of that franchise for a decade now, and has really been a cornerstone of some teams that came. I mean, really, they should have one Super Bowl title, but really have been on the cusp of two or three at this point. So hat tip to the Falcons for having the guts to do that and for drafting one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, it's just a shame that Kyle Shanahan ruined that for them.
Yeah.
All right. Billy, it sounds like in the background there's two people trying to fight for who your next pick's going to be, but
Yeah.
No, it's just a status quo in the Ariano household.
yeah, welcome to having
Real
kids.
quick, guys, I got to interject. I actually have to cut this short and jump off. I got a blinds and shutters guy showing up to my house right now, and I've got to tend to immediate family matters. So I've got to cut it short. So just pick YA Tittle for me for the last round in the spirit of Goose, and that'll complete my 5.
Well, hey, we understand when you're on assignment, stuff happens. So
No
do your
doubt.
thing.
So you guys be good. I'll
All
catch
right.
up with you later this week.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay, Billy.
So I'm gonna go with again recency bias, but I really like after what he did last year, setting the all-time Niners rookie record in receptions over Jerry Rice. I'm gonna have to go Deebo Samuel.
Nice.
I just think bright future ahead with this guy. So
No doubt. All right, back to the clown car that is Goose's pick.
This one's actually within the time frame. So is 2014 draft. That's within it. 5th overall
NFL?
pick. The draft, because the dumb Jaguars picked what's his name, the quarterback that they had that was just terrible. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But anyways, Khalil Mack. The Jaguars threw
Nice.
off the whole draft, and
Blackman, wasn't it Blackman?
no, the quarterback.
Oh, the quarterback. Oh, never mind. I thought you said never mind. I don't know who the quarterback was they got.
Bortles.
Blake
Bortles.
Bortles. There we
That's
go.
right.
Yes.
Yeah, I was blanking on it. I'm like,
I know,
it's
it's
right in
blanking
front of
too.
me. Blake Bortles.
Because
Okay.
they took Bortles, it allowed the draft to shake out where the Raiders got basically the best player.
Nice.
And so that was just everything I wanted.
So, Goose, I was so excited to get to your pick that I forgot my pick for the 4th round because I wanted to hear your clown car pick. But my 4th round pick was actually another San Diego State product, and this one had dual meaning for me because not only was it a San Diego State guy, but it also meant the Osprey totally reached and shouldn't have picked him, which was even better because gotta love when a rival reaches but then gives your guy from San Diego State a 1st round pick. So Rashad Penny in the 2018 draft. Love Rashad, had a great career at San Diego State, but don't know why he went in the 1st round to the Osprey. Thank you, Osprey. We love you. All right. Back around. Billy, your 5th and last pick.
So my 5th and last pick is a super reverse jinx special. I just want to say my favorite of the last 10 years has been when the Seahawks drafted Russell Wilson, 75 pick overall in 2012. It turned out to be an instant superstar. Let's hope this gravy train ends today. That's my pick. Russell Wilson, 2012, 75th pick.
You gotta believe in your power of reverse jinx if you're gonna do that.
Oh, there's been no sports going on, man. This one I've been saving this one up for a couple months. So
all right, and since Goose gets to break the rules, fine. I get to break the rules too.
There you go.
The number 1 on mine was not this, but I'm going to go with the Ricky Williams draft by Mike Ditka, where he traded his entire draft
That was a good one
for the one player, and then you know how that goes. So gotta love when a guy just goes out on a freaking limb and ends up with his pants down. Ricky Williams can do that to you, I guess. All right, well, guys, what do you think? Should we save our top 5 movie quotes for when Joe gets back?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sounds good.
All right, so we'll
As
throw
you,
that
as you
one
get
in.
as you can hear in the background, all hell's breaking loose in my house.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, I feel like the same's going to happen here. Goose, enjoy it while you can.
I will say honorable mention. I was gonna throw this in Williams, number 4th pick overall, and now he's on the Niners for basically nothing. So
Trent Williams,
yeah,
right?
so that's a great pick right there too.
Nice. All right, guys. Well, Sundays being Sundays, we still got the honey-do list, even though COVID-19 is still beating down our doors. What can I say? But we'll get back at it this week and look forward to reviewing our top 5 movie quotes. Listeners, stay tuned.